And hello everyone, and welcome to the Copyright 2.0 show, episode number 329. My name is Jonathan Bailey. I have the website Plagiarism Today, which can be found at plagiarismtoday.com. And as you're joining me today, the man with a shirt that just wants to help you read better at the point of a gun. It is Patrick O'Keefe, the iFroggy Network at iFroggy.com. Patrick, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. It's been pretty crazy, but nothing like worth talking about. Getting ready. I did some traveling. Now I'm doing more traveling. It's just a lot of traveling. And I was in Houston on Monday, in and out of town, and now I am preparing to go to Newcastle, UK in just 10 days. So yay! More time in a plane.
You just got back from a week or two ago. You got back from where?
Budapest.
Budapest.
So Budapest to Houston to Newcastle, and then I got nothing for a little bit. Then I'm probably taking a break.
So how long is the trip to Newcastle versus the trip to Budapest?
It's surprisingly about the same amount of time. The big hop is getting across the Atlantic, and whenever you cross the Atlantic, you usually land at either Amsterdam or in Vienna or somewhere like that in the mainland of Europe. So it's about as much distance to fly there as it is to fly from there to Budapest, Newcastle to Budapest from there. So it's about the same time. It's going to be about 14 hours travel time.
Are you planning on sticking around a little bit?
Not as long as that. In Budapest, we stayed and made it a conference/vacation thing.
Right. Yeah.
Where we spent 4 days at the conference, but 7 days touring the city. It won't be like that. I have a day or two on either side of it, but that's mostly just buffer.
Okay. So, well, yeah.
There's one thing I'm hoping to do while I'm in the area, but mostly it's going to be conference. I'm not really sticking around this time. We've done the whole Newcastle vacation before. We did it 2 years ago. Really loved it. And we were given a choice because Crystal, like most office workers, has limited time off. So we had a choice either spend our time in Budapest or Newcastle, and we chose Budapest.
Huh. Well, yeah, I figured you couldn't do it again so soon, so yeah that's good. At least, I don't know what to say. There's no buffer for that. So yeah, have a nice 28-hour trip.
Yeah, I'll be there for 5 days. Yeah, 5 days. I arrive the 14th, leave the 19th. I'll be there 5 days. Conference is 2.5, so I have a little buffer, but not much.
So when it says you just published a blog post,
yes,
in your flood the Twitter fashion that you do every Wednesday, when you publish something just before the podcast, it seems like every week.
I know.
It's like every time. But in that post where you talk about the event, the International Integrity and Plagiarism Conference, that's a name.
Yeah, I didn't name it.
6IIPC is the acronym there, and their website is. Oh, you linked to yourself. Let's see. Plagiarismconference.org.
Sorry, did I forget to link to them?
No, you did. It's just I was going to the conference program link, and it. Oh, never mind. Yeah. Anyway, cool. So you mentioned you chair 3 different events. Yes. What does chair mean in this context? Because it looks like there's one speaker.
It's basically a combination.
Events. So what do you do?
It's a combination of introduction and moderator, basically.
Okay, so you're moderating one person.
Yeah. Well, basically, I'm moderating the Q&A afterward.
Okay, got it.
The moderating the Q&A. So basically, what you do is you introduce them. Maybe fire off some starter questions, and then let them take the floor for the 90% of the time, and then chair handle the Q&A afterward.
Okay, so you, sir. Yes, you.
Yeah, exactly.
Your turn. In the back?
Exactly. I'm already practicing You've had your hand up for a while. Your turn.
Yeah.
I've got to get that just right. That's very difficult, but I'm working on it. I got time.
And then you're going to do a workshop called Unpredictable and Unfair, the Aftermath of Plagiarism.
And it takes a look at both in academic and professional settings how 2 people can commit pretty much the same act of plagiarism and receive wildly different punishments for it. And
so academic and what's the other setting?
Professional.
So you mean like a journalist?
Like a journalist or a researcher, yeah, or even a novelist, or even looking at novelists in one case. And
I'm guessing that it looks like the professional is the one who gets the really public lambasting. Is that fair to say?
It compares academic versus academic and professional versus professional.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay, so you'll have a few academics who maybe one who got treated worse than another.
Exactly. It's looking at different scenarios and sort of understanding, and also looks at attempts especially in the academic side, to try to remedy this by creating standard, by the book numerical attempts at creating sort of a regimen for punishing or handling that plagiarism. So it's an interesting talk. It's one I've had brewing for a while. I wanted to give this talk about 4 years ago, but some of the examples I have come from my private consulting, and I didn't have clearance to talk about them.
Okay.
Now I do, so I'm excited. It's going to be great.
Cool. Well, sounds good. Sounds like a real barn burner.
Oh, it's going to be a barn burner for this crowd. This crowd's going to love it, I think. And I'm really excited also about chairing the end event, because that was the very last event. It's a panel event with some of the people. I don't know who all is going to be involved in, but my understanding is that it's kind of a panel event where everyone's just talking about what they learned and what they gleaned, and it's going to be really, really cool to be involved with that.
Yeah, that sounds fun. It's kind of, I always look at those things, and I mean, in this case, 15 minutes. I mean,
well, I think realistically,
15 minutes.
My understanding of it is it's kind of the a lot of time, but it'll probably go over. It's
Okay.
just people leave, basically.
Yeah.
Which is fine by me. I'm there until they throw me out, personally.
Yeah.
But no, my understanding is, the conference
Of the country.
on paper is supposed to, and that may well happen. It is the UK after all. But it's one of those things where the conference I think is scheduled in the but I'm pretty sure the conversation will continue well after that.
Cool. Well,
I'm hoping it will. I don't know for certain, but I'm hoping. It's gonna be cool.
Great.
Well, yeah. So that's the big news there. Got like I said, chairing 3 different events. Really looking forward to that, and presenting one. It's gonna be cool. Hoping I see some PT readers there. I do every time I go, so I'm hoping that trend continues. Always exciting to be in Newcastle among these guys. This is probably my favorite recurring conference I'm a part of in any way. So, really excited. Any travel in your future?
No travel.
No travel, okay.
No travel.
Not even like a day trip to Charlotte or something?
No, that's quite a journey for me, Charlotte. That's like, I don't know.
That's 6 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, it always looks like that, but it ends up being a little more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been there one time, and
Don't recommend it.
it was fun. It was fun. I didn't get to. I looked around a little bit downtown.
Yeah, that's basically all there is to do in Charlotte. I should know. I've been there lots of times.
Yeah.
I should note, even though I'm from New Orleans now, those who are just tuning into the podcast, I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina, where Charlotte was the big city. You went there when you wanted to see a downtown.
Yeah.
That was kind of the whole point. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about the Newcastle in a few days. But I have a feeling I'm going to get back from there and be so worn out and so done with travel for a while.
It's 2 big trips within a month.
It's 2 big trips plus a small one. Like I said, I had a day trip to Houston earlier this week, and that I drove that, and it was better than flying, but still tough. Still tough. Because Houston, I think, is a 5-hour drive, and I was convinced, quite correctly, that if I flew it, I was going to spend as much time wrangling cabs and all the other stuff as I would have saved by just by driving. So it was quite correct. And,
yeah, that does make sense. I guess it kind of depends on also if it's something people will pay for and you don't feel like and it was paid for. I know
it was paid for.
Yeah, so and then you could think, well, if you're the type of person who works in the air, for example.
Yeah.
Then you think, well, instead of driving, I could be working for an hour or 2, whatever the flight is. How long is the flight? I'm looking it up right now.
It's like an hour and a half or so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to get a whole lot done. I mean, you have reasonably an hour.
Good. Probably. And Patrick, maybe you're different than me. Maybe this is something we can differ on. But I have never been able to effectively work on an airplane.
Yeah, I don't think we're different on that. I don't know. I've never really tried because my laptop is so big that it just doesn't make any sense. It's literally, I don't know. I don't want to say impossible, but I have a big laptop, and I have the same laptop I have whenever you might have seen it.
And for the record, he does have a laptop that'd be great for murdering people with. It is quite mammoth.
It's quite large. It's old. It's pretty old at this point. It's a 17-inch laptop, so it's pretty big, pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I have a tablet, but I'm not too used to the idea of working too much on it. The only work I could really get done is some writing for the most part. I'm not gonna try to visit my communities on there. It's just too much of a pain, and I miss my 3-monitor setup anyway for that stuff. So
yeah, I have a 2-monitor setup, and I know whenever I'm away from it, I start crying.
Yeah, I'm seeing about an hour 8, hour 10 flight time.
Yeah, well, realistically,
so,
you're going to spend an hour and a half on the plane, as well as figuring. Well, probably 2 hours, actually, with takeoff and taxiing and everything else.
yeah, maybe. But they don't let you take your laptops out.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So you only get, realistically, like 30
You
minutes.
can have a tablet now, or at least I think. I mean, you can. Is that everywhere now? I think so.
Yes, on domestic flights, yes, not international.
Right. So you
I
can
ran into this on the way to Budapest.
Your phones, yeah, but no laptops. So yeah, I'm still. I know a lot of people get work done on mobile, but I'm just the work I do isn't. Very conducive.
I can get work done on mobile, but it's like you're cramped in.
Yeah. I mean, you can write up some short emails. I mean, if that's what you're
that I could do. And the other
if all your work is email, then you'll be in heaven.
I mean, I have a 13-inch MacBook, and it's way smaller than yours.
Yeah.
But it still feels mammoth when I try to put it on that tray. You know what I mean? And I remember I used to own one of the 7.5-inch EPCs, those netbooks.
Yeah,
I couldn't even use that on an airplane. It was nothing. Nothing I could use. So yeah, I can't work on a plane. I tried.
It just wasn't comfortable.
No, it's not. It's not comfortable.
Yeah, I remember that. I think you might have had the E whatever, triple E, however you say that.
It's E is all I know. I was corrected once on that. I said triple E. PCs.
Yeah, I think you had that. Did you have that when you came to Greensboro first time? I think you might have.
I might have. You know, I mean,
they were neat in concept, but you know.
I've got to say one thing about it. It actually saved my presentation in Washington, D.C. Because it had the VGA out right on the side.
Right.
And so I was a 2-person presentation. The other half of it had this supercharged Windows gaming laptop beast that had drivers completely incompatible with the projector. You plug it in, and the whole thing just tanked. And so he put it on his and mine on my tiny little EPC. We hooked up the VGA port and ran both of our talks off of it. So I'm just saying, you know, for what it was good. But yeah, it was more of a good concept than an execution, I'll admit.
Yeah. Well, you know, it worked that time, so that good memories.
And while we're on the change topics real fast, I want to talk about your shirt for a minute because it means a lot to me.
Okay.
It's a picture of LeVar Burton dressed as Geordie LaForge firing a machine gun. Hang on, let me put the camera on you. Got to do that. I forgot to do that. Firing a machine gun with a reading rainbow logo, but instead of reading rainbow, it's reading Rambo. Yeah. And of course, this is incredibly timely because, as has been the buzz of the internet for the past week.
Just to point out for sit down, there's a book down here, and his gun is firing like a rainbow too. I don't know if you know that.
All he needs is like Skittles too to make it like complete.
Yeah. Taste the rainbow, bleed the rainbow.
Exactly. I like that one. That's good. See, that was good. That was really good. But you know, it's relevant though because this week has marked another one of those Kickstarter successes. LeVar Burton launched a Kickstarter for his new Reading Rainbow, and his goal was to raise $1 million so that he could bring Reading Rainbow back and make it web-based and do all this stuff with it. And so far, he's 7 days in. It started right about the time we were doing the podcast last week, and he has now raised $3.45 million, a little bit over. So it's just shy of $3.5 million.
Yeah, I think he hit $1 million in like 11 hours.
11 hours. It was under 12 hours. Yeah.
And I actually was in the first like 60,000, so I feel like I was like right there.
Trendsetter there.
I was exactly right. So I was kickstarting Reading Rainbow before it was cool an hour later. Yeah, but no, it's a neat campaign. You know, I just chipped in a few bucks really, but I like it, and LeVar Burton seems cool, and I mean it's just a part of. I can't say that. I mean, I watched Reading Rainbow as a kid, and it's a part of my childhood. I don't know that I watched it hundreds of times or whatever, but great program, enjoyed it, and butterfly in the sky. Yeah.
I can go
twice. It's a good show.
Yes.
Take a look. It's in a book. A Reading Rainbow.
And he's so going to sue us for this. No, he wouldn't do that.
No, it's public domain.
Yeah, it's a smack. But no, it's. I thought it was a great Kickstarter. I know there was some controversy because he's taken Reading Rainbow and made it a for-profit company,
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think his heart's in the right place on this. And
yeah.
I was thinking about something the other day. I know you're not a big Star Trek fan,
That's correct.
but how cool is it that Patrick Stewart, LeVar Burton, Will Wheaton, Brent Spiner, and all these other guys came from the same cast? And it's pretty badass, you know?
I mean, in what context? Like being like, I mean, people who
Well, I
are
mean,
using the internet,
essentially,
or
they all became kind of internet celebrities in their own right, and for
right?
doing pretty cool and awesome things. So
Okay, yeah,
Will Wheaton went on to do a lot of tech journalism and tech reporting and have his
yeah,
own website. Patrick Stewart, of course, is Sir Patrick Stewart. No one's going to ever question his awesomeness as long as
right.
they may live. And LeVar Burton, of course, is doing Reading Rainbow now digitally. So, of course, he was doing Reading Rainbow while he was on Star Trek. I think he actually might have been doing Reading Rainbow before Star Trek, too, but I'd have to look at the dates on that one. It wouldn't surprise me, though. It was all the same time. In fact, I remember he did an episode of Reading Rainbow from the set of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Right.
Now, I've got to say this. As far as the perks go, while we're on this one topic here, there is a perk that will let you have a private dinner with LeVar Burton. And this is a $10,000 perk, I should warn, if anyone's getting any drool on their chin here. But you will get the opportunity to take a photo of a video while wearing LeVar Burton's original Geordi LaForge visor from Star Trek The Next Generation. So if you want to wear the visor that's seen on your shirt, no less, yeah, you can do so for a $10,000 donation.
Yeah, I think it's more like, it's a way of incentivizing some wealthy benefactor, right? I mean,
exactly.
for the most part, 10,000 isn't an approachable sum. It just depends on where you are in life. A single guy, who is a successful executive might be able to drop 10,000. But yeah, I mean, it is neat that he mixed in those perks for Star Trek fans. I don't know if you saw the original video, and I never watched Star Trek: The Next Generation. I've seen a few of the original Star Trek, but that's about it. And the video had Spiner in it, though.
Yeah.
The first one. It's just you have to watch past the credits, though. If you,
I will.
Stop,
I'll go back and watch past
when the credits roll, you have to wait because it's at
now
the
I
end.
feel like a jackass. I missed something.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
I told
so that
Brent Spiner was awesome.
yeah. So actually, I was thinking about those people as actors, though, right? I mean, the stuff they've gone on acting-wise, and I guess Patrick Stewart's the main one there, right? I mean, beyond he's the main actor. The ones you mentioned. Not that others haven't done other things or cool things or whatever. These days, I think of Patrick Stewart as the voice of Stan's boss on American Dad. that's the main way I interact.
Well, you can think of him as that. You can think of him as Charles Xavier from the X-Men too, though.
Right. Yeah. So he's had a bunch of different roles. And actually, speaking of LeVar Burton, I saw a movie with him in it semi-recently, and it's the most recent movie listed on his filmography on Wikipedia. It's called. I don't know if it would qualify as garbage horror, but it's called Rise of the Zombies. And have you seen it?
No, I have not.
Okay, it was a TV movie for I didn't know this, for Sci-Fi, I guess. I watched it on Netflix. And it's got LeVar Burton.
That makes it a okay, go ahead. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, but it's got Mariel Hemingway is a star of it. So take that as it is. But it's got LeVar Burton in it, and it's got Ethan Suplee, who was on My Name Is Earl. He was Randy, that guy. If you ever watched that show, his Earl's brother, and Danny Trejo's in it, and that's the names you'll know probably. There's a few people here, but those are the names you know. And it was it's okay. It was okay. Kind of like Sharknado, okay. I mean, it was okay, but it was interesting to see LeVar Burton in something because I don't think I've ever watched a movie with him in it. Even though he's done some. I mean, he's done movies. He's got his credits list here. He's done a handful of movies over the last 30 years, 40 years. But and of course he was in Roots, and so it was cool to see him in that though.
I realized I made a goof. I forgot to get something I wanted to show you guys. Show the world, and I might bring it next episode. But speaking of Indiegogo and crowdfunding, I actually got one of my perks from something I backed a year ago.
Oh yeah?
Today I got it in the mail. Actually, I'll go run and get it real fast. Just entertain for 1 second.
Yeah. Entertain. Actually, I've backed. What have I backed on Kickstarter? I've backed a few things, but I've never received anything. yet. Looking at it here, I have. I've got to log into Kickstarter. That's great.
I'll get you back.
Yeah, it wasn't very entertaining while you were gone. I was thinking about my Kickstarter history, backer history, and I've never actually received a product yet. But you've got one.
Yeah, I got one today. It was actually Indiegogo. A friend of mine, remember we did the garbage horror thing, right?
Yes.
And
what is that thing?
No, you forgot all that already. We reviewed a movie called Thanksgiving, remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
And then there was a guy named Darren, played by a guy named Ryan Francis. Well, he saw our review. We became friends with him, along with General Bass.
Hit you up for money.
Well, he launched an Indiegogo campaign for his new movie, which finally was released on DVD, and we have our perk in. It is, I'm trying to hold it so you can see it.
Biker Warrior Babe.
Biker Warrior Babe versus Zombie Babies from Hell.
Okay.
So
the red part's hard.
Yeah, we got our DVD in, we got a poster, we got a sticker and a button and a whole bunch of other stuff in the package. And it was really weird because I donated to it and then forgot about it. It was like $25. I just totally forgot about it. And here comes this mysterious package in the mail from Ohio. I'm like, oh, that's got to be Ryan. What the heck's he sending me? And it was my perk I'd forgotten about, so thank you, Ryan Francis. I'm looking forward to popping this in and checking it out.
So you could have just never have received anything,
and you I would never thought
remember
about it
that you paid the money. It's just
easily
scammed.
Yeah.
No, it's cool.
Well, it was bad because after I got it, I went back in and checked to see if I didn't remember if I had done it or not, and checked, and indeed I did support it back in February of 2013. So it's been almost a year and a half.
Cool. Well, did he have to make it?
Yeah. He had not made the movie yet when I supported
it. So, I mean, that's why there's some time.
He was trying to raise, it was a relatively small amount. He was trying to raise like $10,000 to actually make the film. And I think he got just shy of $9,000, so he had enough to go ahead and do it. And he finished it, and here's the product after all these years. I know I was following along on his Facebook. I know when they had the premiere. In fact, they had the premiere when I was in Columbus, Ohio, at an unrelated conference. It was back in November.
Gotcha. Well, I will receive my first item across any crowdfunding site later this fall when I get my stand desk.
Your standing desk?
It's called Stand Desk.
Oh, that's the one. Oh.
Yeah, so it's such a stand desk. It automatically goes up and down, and you can set memory points.
We talked about it a little bit. Yeah,
I told you about it. So that I'm gonna get.
You will get that.
Yeah. Beyond that, I've only had one other thing, and I put in like $10 for the Reading Rainbow thing, so I'm not getting anything tangible. So
other than a thank you.
But I will get a thank you on Twitter, I think. And another thing I backed that was successful was a show with a Frank, and I didn't get anything from that either. I got it was downloadable. I got all the songs from the show in MP3 format. I got 10 of the most popular episodes in downloadable format, that sort of thing. But no tangible item I can hold in my hand. So this will be the first one, the desk, when it comes.
No.
Looking forward to that.
So good luck on that. I'm looking for. Let me know how the desk is. I'll be curious.
Thanks. I will.
Well, Patrick, we've gone on about our Indiegogo/Kickstarter history long enough. Are we ready to talk some copyright news?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do something that makes us sound smart and attractive to the ladies. Maybe not. Who knows? Well, okay. Big news this week came from the Center for Copyright Information. They are the organization which manages the copyright alert system. So the CCI manages the CAS, which is what is oftentimes called the six strike system here in the U.S. That's the process by which ISPs, except mine, Cox, will send alerts to users who are in some way infringing copyright over file sharing networks. And these alerts are pretty much just warnings, not actually, mitigating or going to take you off the internet, though they do throttle or slow internet speeds at some point. Well, they released their first hard statistics this week. And basically what we're seeing is that about 1.3 million alerts were sent last year to some 700,000 individuals, a little bit over 700,000 individuals. So right there off the bat, you can tell most people got one alert and that was it. They sent approximately, like I said, 700,000 first alerts. It looks like it was a little bit over 200,000 second alerts, and then it goes down from there.
Yeah, it was 722,000 one-time alerts, 214,000 second alerts, 165,000 third-time alerts, then 94,000 on the fourth alert, 60,000 for the fifth, and 37,000 for the sixth.
And what I pick up from that is if you got the first alert, you probably changed your habits in some way that you didn't get a second.
Right.
Odds were you either changed where you pirated from, or you stopped pirating. You got it from a legitimate source, or you put a password on your Wi-Fi, or maybe you grounded your son. You know, something happened that prevented a second alert from coming, which was the goal.
Right.
Got the second alert, you were pretty much guaranteed to get a third.
Yeah, it was the people who got the first alert. It was, let's see here, only 29,000 got, only 29%, I should say, 29.6% received a second alert. So a little over 70% didn't receive a second alert.
I think that's a pretty good percentage of people that didn't get a second alert.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. Now, like I said, if you got a second alert, you were pretty much guaranteed to get a third. The percentage drop off there was almost nil. Or it was not nil, but you know what I mean? It wasn't nearly that steep either.
Yeah.
I think like 75% of them got a second or got a third. So, and then fourth.
Yeah, 76%.
Yeah. So,
76.8%.
Whoa!
Yeah, 76.8% received a second notice from that secondary group, the third notice from the secondary group. If you compare it to the top number, to the 722, 820, then you can say that it was 22.8% that received a third notice of the initial group. So only 22% of that group that received a first notice moved on to a third. So actually, like you said, it's not that big of a deal. 26% versus 22%. Yeah. But then it starts to problem.
And only 37,000 plus 6 alerts, and that's when we're into the mitigation phases, when they're throttling or maybe pausing your internet for a period of time to let you reflect.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you look at it, only a little over 5% went to the 6th alert.
Which is, once again, I think is pretty darn good. Now,
yeah, I mean, if you have a 95% success rate, I mean, that's... If the successful measure was just stopping them from getting to the last alert, obviously, then you have a 95% success rate. Now, was this just BitTorrent? What was this?
Yeah, this only deals with BitTorrent and I think other peer-to-peer networks.
Right.
So
they could have just moved on to other infringement.
They could have gone on streaming sites or direct download sites or anything like that.
Or just go to YouTube.
Or YouTube, yeah.
Which in cases, you know, don't have a lot of the stuff they're looking for.
Yeah, it might. Or they could have, maybe we got a Netflix account, who knows?
Yeah, they could have. I mean, you know, it's not like, obviously you have the cynic point of view and you have the optimist point of view, and of course the realistic view is in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people, and that's always the thing, and it's tough because, you know, it's like measuring the impact of community in a business. You know, I always say that, yes, there's things you can measure, but the important thing of measuring is understanding that you can't measure everything, right? You can't measure someone who is impacted by what is said in a forum, and then they go and they call a friend or they tell somebody, yeah, you should buy that because I read this. There's the attribution models online are limited in how you can attribute a sale to a specific avenue. So it's, you can track a lot, but I think it's true here also. You know, you could look at other numbers. You could look at Netflix adoption in the U.S., for example. You could try. You need the correlation causation, right? Because it's still a growing business. But some of those people went to legitimate means. Some, right? We don't know how many. Some went to other illicit means. It's you know, fair to say. Right? So it's unclear, but it's reasonable to think that at least some people were driven to a legitimate means of engaging with the content.
And I think a common scenario, for example, would be if you're in a household, a family, the children are pirating content, the parents are unaware. They get the alert, the parents are alerted to what their kids are doing and put the kibosh on it somehow and transfer them to some other legitimate means.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it could also be the pirates go, oh, gosh, they actually are watching me. I have to hurry up and pay for that VPN. You know?
Exactly, yeah. Or, you know, and it's a, you know, you got your adult parents living with you and you're, you know, you're taking care of them and they're pirating and you don't know about it. And so you have to tell your parents, you know, knock that off. Don't pirate that.
Dad,
no Game of Thrones.
Dad, stop that. I will buy you an HBO Go account. Just stop it.
yeah. So
I'm sure that was coming.
No, it happens. You know. Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was gonna say, like, I have mentioned this in the show that I'm really proud of my youngest brother who's 15. Have I mentioned this before?
Yeah.
You ever talk about that?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I mean, just because he really does consume content legitimately, and we talked about it. I think the last time we talked about it was when tied to what's the anime streaming service?
Oh, Crunchyroll.
Yeah, I think we might have talked about that because we were talking about watching anime, and I'm like, well, where do you watch these videos? And of course, I'm bracing for the thought that maybe it's like some
BitTorrent or
website. Well, no, yeah, BitTorrent. No, I have no concept for that, I don't think. But and he says Crunchyroll. I said, oh yeah, okay, I know Crunchyroll. And so yeah, it's just I don't know. I'm not sure what impacts it. Obviously, being around me probably impacts it a little bit.
You are a good influence on everyone.
Yeah.
Patrick. If you haven't figured that out,
that's what some kids don't. So.
I have
it's
routinely referred to Patrick as the angel on one shoulder, and various other people play the devil on the other. So,
yeah,
what would Patrick do?
I do like the color white.
Yes, he does, and I like the color black. See, maybe I'm the devil on someone's shoulder.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe this angel and devil show right here. But no, the other interesting statistic came out is they also had statistics on the challenges. Out of those 1.3 million notices sent, only 265 were challenged, of which only 47 were successful. The majority of those who made challenges, the vast majority actually, were based on the unauthorized use of my account, meaning I had an open Wi-Fi and some jerk hopped on it and did naughty things.
Yeah. And again, the cynic would say that most people are afraid to challenge.
Or I think the cynic would actually say there was no reason to challenge because there was no teeth to the alerts. Why bother?
The throttling is a little bit of teeth, though.
Yeah, but you've got to get all the way to number 6.
And you can always cancel, I guess. Although, a lot of the country is limited in
I'm limited.
choices.
I've only got one effective choice.
Yeah, I mean, we've got I think I might have 2, but I know I have at least 1.
I can get DSL here, but DSL in my area is so much slower than cable, it's almost pointless.
Oh yeah, I've got 1, maybe 2 options. I believe I have a second option, but they're both DSL, so.
No.
And it's okay. I mean, I get 10.5 down.
My other option is that I can get a WISP, a wireless ISP, and you might be able to in your area if you look it up. I don't know.
I've never even heard of that. That hasn't reached us in the Outer Banks.
You might want to check it out because they actually specialize in rural areas. They actually release them the best, but they basically they're expensive.
Okay.
It's a drawback. They're fast, but they're expensive. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, no. So there was not a lot of challenges, and I don't think it was fear. I just think it was that people didn't want to bother because, especially in the early stages, there's no teeth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think fear is. I personally think fear is some of it. I'm not saying that it's blamed for a lot, but that 265 out of 1.3 million. I mean, some people maybe not fear is. Maybe fear isn't the right word. I think maybe just not trusting the process.
Maybe that's fair. That's fair.
Big companies and they give a damn about that they might be wrong. I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the technology probably isn't so good that it's successful on 1.2. What are we looking at? 1.29999 percentage of case out of 3 million, out of 1.3 million. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, is the technology so good that it's got a 100% success rate? I don't know if I would like to say that. I don't think I believe that, honestly. Do you?
I don't think anything is that accurate ever made in human history.
So, I mean, what we're led to believe here is of 1.3 million, 47 were false. That seems...
It does seem high.
Optimistic.
It does. No, and yeah, I think they were, but like I said, if I can't because I'm on Cox and Cox doesn't participate. But if
I were in Cox, you were like, I'm not going with these Time Warner bastards. I want a free open internet company.
I totally had a choice on cable company, Patrick. No, I totally had that choice. Yeah, but no, if I got one for some reason and it was a misidentification, especially if it was just the first one, I'd probably just ignore it.
I'm surprised. Jonathan Bailey, professional top record sold. I wouldn't think you'd want that on your permanent record in black ink.
Permanent record.
It's like when someone wants to hire you, they pull the permanent record, they see, oh, what's this?
I would
copyright notice from Cox? Oh.
Well, no. What I would do is I would check and make sure my Wi-Fi is secure, and that I had disabled the guest Wi-Fi. And I would.
Would you get an article out of it for PT?
Probably, yeah. I'd at least post something about it. I would do that.
Get an article out of it.
But as far as like forming a formal petition and going through the headaches of going through the admittedly it's a virtual hearing type thing where it's all done on paper, but going through the trouble of that for a first notice doesn't seem worth it to me.
Right, that's a good point. I mean, it depends on how easy the process is to.
Yeah, and I don't think the process is particularly easy. One of the issues I do have with it.
Yeah.
Well, ready to move forward on this?
Yeah. Let's go.
All right. Well, let's moving forward. Next story deals with Led Zeppelin. Now, we talked previously about claims being made by the estate for a guy named Randy California. He's the former frontman of the band Spirit, who is claiming that Spirit's song Taurus is the inspiration for Led Zeppelin's pretty much legendary Stairway to Heaven. Even if you don't know much about rock and roll, you probably know about Stairway to Heaven. You know what I mean? One of those songs. You stumble out of a cave, like not having had anything for 50 years. You've probably heard of Stairway to Heaven. Just saying, odds are.
I've heard of it, but I not that I could really go along with it or hum it to you, but I mean, obviously you heard of it, so.
Yeah, it's at least the name should ring a bell.
Yeah.
It's basically what it comes down to. And so the Stairway to Heaven, for those who are playing along at home, was released in 1971. Taurus was released in 1969. Well, after the claims were made about 2 weeks ago, they have now finally gone through and not finally, I guess it's a reasonable time frame, but they've reasonable.
It's about time, you slow morons. A whole week is a long time here in the court system.
But okay, as far as going from initial grumbles to lawsuit, this is reasonable. But from alleged infringement to a lawsuit, it's a long time.
Right.
Because, like I said, 71, 2014, there's a pretty big gap. It can't even fit in my my window here. I'm here shaking.
Let's see, 14 minus 71. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Just leave it. It's 43 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Long enough to have a family.
Yeah, it is. And more than long enough to have a family. It's long enough to be born and have a family of your own.
Yeah, if you really get busy, you could probably have grandchildren.
It's really... You have to be on the ball with that one, though.
Yeah, I already failed that.
Yeah, so did I. To be fair. But yes, so the lawsuit has been filed, and it makes a lot of interesting allegations. First, it claims that Spirit spent a lot of time opening for Led Zeppelin. It claims that Led Zeppelin covered other Spirit songs, or at least one other Spirit song. And it indicates that they had a lot of artistic influence on Led Zeppelin, including inspiring them to try the theremin, a particular instrument that I'm not familiar with in the least.
It sounds like you might need it from what it's described.
I know it does.
It makes spooky effects. It's not like you need to get on that.
I know, it might be something for the Han. I know. I'm thinking about Googling this.
Actually, you know, I wanted to, but I didn't have time earlier. I'm going to Google it right now and take a look. Go ahead.
But long and short of it is, claimed to have all this influence, and then also makes allegations that Led Zeppelin has a very checkered history when it comes to authorship, including them being forced to add authorship credits to at least a variety of blues musicians, including Howlin' Wolf and Willie Dixon, and other artists they've allegedly borrowed from, including Richie Valens, Eddie Cochran, and Traffic. So, yeah, they're pointing to what they claim is a pretty checkered past here for Led Zeppelin and their musical thievery. But long and short of it is, you know, so long and short of it is...
long and short of it is...
I got a text message that just made me laugh. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, share with the class.
Pull it together.
You can't.
I'd rather not. Not on this
one. Here's what I wanted to say about this. I don't have much to say about this.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Did you have a chance to look at the complaint embedded?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, because it's probably the most attractive-looking complaint that I've ever seen
embedded.
It is. First of all, the way the text is allotted. Also, I don't know if you noticed this, but on the headings, on the main section headings of certain areas, it actually uses the Led Zeppelin font.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you caught that or not. That's
it was also mentioned in the article.
Oh, okay. Did you mention it already?
No.
Okay. So the complaint actually is different from what you see as like a standard kind of box letter complaint. It uses different fonts and typography, but they use the Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, they have a little fun with it.
Yeah, they had a little fun with it, and I guess this guy, the attorney here, recently got spoken to for being
dealing with a very similar lawsuit about old writing credits, but dealing with Usher.
Yeah. So speaking about theremin, though, Amazon sells one actually. It's on Prime.
Oh, Prime.
It's $110 off, which knocks it down to $389. So you might want to see if you pick up one secondhand or something and test it out or do some research. But it almost looks like a router. from the picture. I don't know how big it is, but it looks like a wireless router. Um, But and Amazon.com, the homepage says they're unveiling a new device on June 18th. I could request an invitation to the launch event. I wonder what they're doing at maybe the long-awaited phone or the next generation of tablets or what.
Or I don't know. They just did the Fire TV, right? That's not that long ago. They did that.
Yeah. There's an article on The Verge that says they're a mystery device. So, yeah, it says, is this finally Amazon's 3D smartphone? Huh.
Oh. I don't know if I want a 3D smartphone. I'm just going to go out there and say that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably save and wait for 4.
Okay, a theremin is apparently a type of synthesizer. See how much I know about music.
Yeah, I need to find like a YouTube video of this thing.
Yeah.
Figure out what it makes it like eerie, like.
Apparently, it's mostly meant to be used with other instruments. It's an instrument for use with other instruments, I guess. It's a synthesizer. Yeah.
Go! Yeah, you should go listen to the sample on the PPE page. It does have a spooky vibe to it.
Does it? Okay, cool. Yeah, but I might have to look into it for the haunt.
It'd be funny. You get, one of your volunteers, or maybe you can moonlight as the theremin player.
Maybe. Who knows? I can probably do it outside. I mean, if it's not that difficult to play, I've got musical inclination. But it's funny though. You talk about the design of the lawsuit real fast. That's what I wanted to go back to.
Okay.
I've spoken to several lawyers, and I've asked, why are all lawsuits written so boringly? And a lot of it's that it's legalese, it has to be written a certain way.
Right.
But still, there are portions that don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you can be a little creative and have a little fun with it, and they almost never do, but because they want to be professional and proper and whatnot. I get that. But seriously, a well-written lawsuit, I think, is more likely to win at the end of the day. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to overcome bad facts or bad law, but just saying, you're not helping yourself by having a boring, uninteresting, and poorly written lawsuit.
Yeah, and I mean, on some level, we're talking about typography here, right? I mean, it's just the way it looks. It's just more visually appealing. I like the cause of action, the right of attribution, falsification of rock and roll history. That's an interesting cause of action on the first page.
That is. You got to give them credit for hyperbole.
Yeah, that's where's that law? I think who wrote it? ACTC? No. Anyway, here we go. I think we talked about that story enough. And really, most of the story for me was about not the story, but other stuff like the complaint I was interested in.
All right. Well, let's shift gears to Sweden and the Pirate Bay, and specifically its co-founder now and former admin Peter Sund. He was arrested in southern Sweden after being on the lam from his sentence. Now, he was sentenced to 8 months in prison for his role in the Pirate Bay, which seems, it was actually a reduced sentence. The appeals court reduced it, but increased the fine, if you'll remember. So it's like more money and less jail. It's weird. But after doing that, he kind of went on the lam, and no one knew where he was. There was a lot of hypothesis that he'd gone to the United States, maybe he'd gone to Germany, maybe he'd gone to somewhere else. But he was joined by Gottfried Svartholm, I think is how you say his last name. I really could use the help from someone that speaks Swedish right now. Any hints? Anyone out there care to help? But yes. But Svartholm went on the lam, and of course he was arrested 2 years ago in Cambodia.
Right.
Remember, there was a big controversy about did the Swedish government pay to get him back or whatnot. But Sund continued to evade. And now he has been arrested and assumedly will be serving his 8-month sentence. I don't know plus or minus time for being on the lam or whatnot, but yeah, he has been arrested.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this story breaking. This is a pretty big story, isn't it? I mean, yeah. There's a couple of trains of thought here. I don't know if people expected him to be arrested, like if people thought it was a high enough priority where it just might slip by, right? I mean, like, because it's more pressing matters. But, I mean, he was in Sweden, so that's kind of step one.
He didn't jump borders.
Yeah, that's kind of step one on the avoid arrest list of things to do is to not be in Sweden. And he was in Sweden, and yeah, they arrested him. I was kind of surprised when I heard the story. I mean, I guess it came out of the blue, so there's really no way not to be surprised by it.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean,
I don't know if I expected it to happen eventually. I guess I did, because I mean, he did. There was a prison sentence, but it took Ben so long that it just didn't seem like it was gonna come to fruition for him.
And I gotta be honest. If I were in his position, I would have hurried to serve the sentence as quickly as I could. This is me talking personally. I've tried to think of what I would do in this position. But my thought is this.
Jonathan would love to go to jail right away.
Yeah, right now. I'm going right now. In fact, I'm leaving this podcast to go to jail voluntarily.
Yeah.
For something.
If he's ever sentenced for anything, he wants to serve right away immediately.
Basically.
No delay.
If I'm sentenced, I want to serve. And the reason is simple. Being on the lam, that means you can't do a lot of things. You know, you can't really be in public. You can't be a public figure. You can't hold a regular job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This really crunches your life.
But for him, he was able to do other things, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he was the CEO of Flatter. Wasn't that his title, or wasn't he? He's the founder. I don't know. And they had some money.
Still involved in Flatter though. I don't know if he still is or not. I mean, it'd be interesting to look that up. But yeah, you know, long and short of it is, you really are kind of limited in what you can do, and it's the type of thing where I would want to be able to move on with my life as soon as possible. And it says in his Wikipedia that he was still once again, Wikipedia, all usual caveats apply, blah 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 blah. But yes, apparently he was a founder of Flatter.
Yeah.
He was apparently not actually still the CEO.
Right. I don't know if he ever was, honestly. Actually, I might have just been not remembering that. But yeah, founder, and yeah, that's what Crunchbase says too. I don't know. Flatter, interestingly enough, hasn't really acknowledged this. I mean, you would think it might be noteworthy enough. They did tweet. They retweeted and tweeted. They retweeted tweets from yesterday, June 3rd. So, okay.
Okay, there you go.
So I mean, what's the? I don't know these. You don't know these matters either, honestly. Actually, I'm going to ask a question.
Probably not. Give me a shot.
But I mean, so he's going to jail now.
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
It's done deal.
Yeah.
8 months.
Well,
I mean, obviously there could be a early release, maybe.
Doubtful now.
Doubtful now.
More doubtful now.
Even if he's helpful and shows everybody how to use.
Well, you don't usually get early release after going on the run for 2 years. Too is another reason to go as soon as you have to. You know.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's true.
I mean, you're not endearing yourself to the system by doing that, and plus, I don't think.
Well, we appear to have lost Jonathan, but yeah, we're talking about the likelihood of serving a lower sentence if you were on the lam. So Jonathan's right, it probably is unlikely for him. And the next story we have, and I'll go ahead and keep talking here as I wait for Jonathan to return, is about Nintendo and YouTube. We talked in the past about game makers and how they view YouTube videos, playthroughs, Let's Play as sometimes they're called, but also other content like reviews and just anything featuring game footage. And you know, it's been kind of a mixed bag. Some game developers like it, some don't. Some claim the videos and then monetize them. Some claim them and block them. So they have different tools and different options. But YouTube has announced plans, according to this report at Variety, for plans to cut YouTubers in on revenue derived from the YouTube videos. Yeah, I'm here. I was just walking through the next story.
Thank you very much. I apologize for that. I had a tab crash on me.
No, it's okay. Yeah, so just talking about the Nintendo story a little bit, and Nintendo plans to cut in YouTube upload YouTube content creators on. It's unclear exactly how it'll work, but it's just kind of a basic, vague plan right now to allow people to use Nintendo footage from Nintendo games on YouTube and to receive a part of the revenue. So Nintendo being, I don't know, it's in my mind the first, you look at the big three in video gaming, it's Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. And of course, within that, there's the game publishers. Nintendo has kind of the, it's not a unique position. I guess Sony and Microsoft are both publishers, but on their own consoles, it feels like Nintendo reigns supreme, more so than on other consoles. Is that's fair?
Yeah, I would say so.
Microsoft has Halo, obviously, huge game for Xbox, but it just feels like there's a more diversity in publishers. Maybe that's not fair. It just feels like to me there's more diversity in publishers on those two systems versus Nintendo's system.
I would agree with that. Yeah, and part of it's because Nintendo has so many popular properties of its own.
Yeah.
Mario, Zelda, the Mario Kart, Super Smash Brothers.
And in a way, kind of brought about kind of the industry that these companies now play in after the crash with Atari and everyone else was around. Back in the days.
Yeah, so no, definitely there. I agree with that. And but I gotta say on this story, it's interesting how Nintendo is comparing strategies to other publishers. You know, when
Yeah.
we remember the big YouTube
Right.
apocalypse purge that happened a while back. That I think they actually mentioned in this article. But
Yeah, they do.
that happened, and then the companies began to kind of line up. We support Let's Play. We're not allowing. They lined up, and Nintendo's kind of like, we're gonna try something more in the middle. You know.
Yeah,
We're
and go
going
ahead,
to
sorry.
tolerate it, but we're going to make sure we get our cut too, type thing.
Yeah, and Nintendo being kind of the first one I know of to say, hey, we're going to cut people in on it, too, which I think is good. I hold the belief that, and this doesn't apply to this specifically, but when you talk about like fan communities, fan websites, I hold the belief that they have the right to monetize themselves, and not everyone agrees with that. Like Epic Games, which is a game maker in North Carolina here, they did Gears of War, I think. They have a policy on their website where basically you have to agree to all of these things that legally you would not have to really agree to launch a website, an official website, but to be a part of their fan conglomerate or whatever it is. You know, they have this agreement, and I've been critical about it in public. I wrote about it on managingcommunities.com, I think, just that it's kind of ridiculous the control they're trying to put over fan sites, and you know, there's a difference between trademark enforcement and just what is commentary online talking about something.
Yeah, I agree.
The first thing that came to mind when I read this story, and that's actually the first comment on this story, there's only a few comments, is I understand if this is for Let's Plays. This is a comment from Larry Bundy Jr. I understand this is for Let's Plays, but things like reviews, retrospective, surely they would fall under fair use. And that's the thing I'm still concerned about, too. I've noted my issues with Content ID here before, talking about, you know, I think it's a greater good sort of thing, but Nintendo doesn't have any right to monetize a review of a game. It has a snippet of footage in it any more than a movie studio has the right to monetize a garbage horror review. They just don't. And yet, Content ID does allow a lot of people to get away with that. Like, it's a fact. A lot of videos that are identified by Content ID are not videos that otherwise would probably pass a court's judgment of being, you know, infringing of copyright or not falling within the bounds of fair use. So, while this is progress, it makes you wonder, okay, how many of these videos did Nintendo really have no claim into anyway?
Yeah. Well, and then comes a separate issue, though, of this is YouTube's policy versus what is allowed underneath the law.
Right.
Because remember, when you sign up via YouTube Uploader, you sign a terms of service, which basically says that YouTube can, you know, you will host your content at their leisure, at their discretion.
Yeah, that's correct.
And that's a big part of this is, yeah, it's fair use under the law. If you took it, you put it on your server with your encoding and all that stuff, you could be completely allowed to do it. But you have YouTube sitting in there as this middleman, and it's almost like, you know, you have two bosses there. You have what's legal and what YouTube allows.
Yeah, and YouTube has two bosses too. Then in this scenario, they have the uploaders, and then they have the content publishers, which are also uploaders, right?
They also, technically, they have three. They have the law, what they're obligated to do, what the uploaders want, and what the content providers want.
So, I mean, in a perfect world, you'd have, well, in a perfect world it would just work, but in a perfect world, in maybe a slightly less perfect world, you'd have people manning Content ID who have a vague, decent understanding of what constitutes general fair use, like just a checklist. Does this do this? Does this do this? Is it a review? Do they offer an opinion? How much of our game does it have in it? Is it less than this? You know, something like that. Just a simple checklist, kind of like what I give my moderators on my communities. You know, because it's unfair to ask someone to, you know, they're not attorneys, they're not, and honestly, it doesn't need that. Like every case doesn't need an attorney. Sometimes they can use a consultant like yourself. You know, not everything, you don't need to bring out the big guns every single time something happens. You can instead have someone who just has a simple checklist and says, hey, this happened, this happened, okay, then we take the money. If not, then we release it. Of course, reality strikes, and that doesn't really happen as much as it should. So I love this on one hand because I think it's good for everyone. I think Nintendo, and I think in general game makers are helped by the videos on YouTube. I think the only time it's not is when it ruins endings. But I mean, it's a plus and a minus. You know, you might give away something and lose someone who might buy the game, but do you really lose someone who wants to play a game because they watched it? Sometimes, I would say. I'm not going to say it never happens, but it just feels like a different experience. So I think how you can recognize people are going to do that and also have everyone make some money kind of leads to more money for everyone, in my view. So I definitely think this is a good thing, and hopefully it kind of shifts more in this way of going.
Yeah.
Because it's a shame when people like, you know, when people like that guy with the glasses, you know, have to stop using YouTube to some extent because they feel like the platform doesn't work for them as a content creator that comments on other people's work. And I think that's something YouTube has to contend with too. It's not like they're hurting for traffic, but you get people to get to a certain point big, and they say, forget this. I don't need the hassle. I have an audience. I'll just take them with me.
Yeah, and that was something we actually discussed when we talked a few weeks ago about Vimeo launching its own version of Content ID. I don't know what the technology is based on. I think it was Audible. It was based on Audible Magic, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were making a push to be more fair use friendly. Now, whether or not they'll succeed, we'll find out. But that was
I think they benefit also from this what YouTube's done, right? They can sit back, and they haven't done it yet. They haven't had to do it yet, so they get to benefit from the YouTube's how many years has it been? I don't know, a few years at least.
Yeah.
Experience of running the service like this.
And about a year of doing it to their channel providers as well. So, just saying.
Yeah.
Well, moving forward to Mega Upload again. I love this headline. It's the fight over Mega Upload's frozen assets heats up. I love that little juxtaposition there. It's so cute. Eric Gardner. Long story short, the Motion Picture Association has filed a motion saying, well, what basically happened is this. As we talked about, Motion Picture Association and the record labels too. The record labels have also joined this. They filed lawsuits against Kim.com and Mega Upload. Now, we all knew those lawsuits were probably going to be put on hold because the criminal case takes precedent and is ongoing too.
Yeah.
So there was no reason. I mean, there was a reason to file it, I'm sure, probably because they had to for some deadline. But we all knew that the lawsuit was going to get held up, and it would come in after the criminal case. Well, Mega Upload predictably filed a motion saying, "Hey, we need to suspend this. A criminal investigation on the same topic is ongoing." And MPAA has filed its own motion saying, "Yes, we agree with that. However, we're only cool with that if his assets remain frozen." And that seems to be the issue here, is that the Motion Picture Association and now the record labels as well want his rather considerable assets, estimated to be over $175 million, to remain frozen pending, while we wait for this lawsuit to take place.
Now, are these Mega Uploads assets, or the Kim.com assets in this instance? So it's combined assets.
Yeah. Mostly Kim.com, I'd imagine, though.
Yeah.
I don't think Mega Upload, the company, has much in the way of assets.
We've been over this before. I don't want to repeat myself too much. I mean, it's like it goes for a long period of time. In this case, it's not like I'm sympathetic for Kim.com, but on the other hand, if it was me in a situation with the government, how long can they really hold my assets and kind of, so to speak, put a stress on my life? So I get that. On the other hand, this is the money that's going to be used to pay for any kind of damages that come about. Obviously there's been some demonstration of the ability to hide things before. So I get both sides of it, and at some point they need to get on with it. I think that's kind of my general perspective.
And I think the last time we had this conversation, and we'll have it again, I'm sure at some point, is that a lot of the delay has been Kim.com's own doing too. A lot of the delays have been put forth by him and his side trying to delay the case. So and the
other side has had their fair share of
delays
issues too, procedural and other over the period of time that I'm sure haven't helped speed it along.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. So. Set a date. Yep.
Save the date. That's what it should be entitled. So yeah, long and short of it is, I think as far as the delay goes, there's enough blame to go around, though.
Yeah, there is, and again, I don't. We may have talked about this before, but what is his living situation like? Can you release some, right? I mean, you have to release some money. Should he have to? I mean, I'm not sure if he's independently wealthy right now where he can just afford to live. But this case consumes his life. Even if you view him as the bad guy, this case consumes his life. Yeah. So to give him $500,000 or $10,000 a month or something, $5,000 a month, something to live on, modestly. No, that's not modest, but live on from his money. Can you unfreeze some of it? I guess without unfreezing most of it. Like give him a few bucks here and there. Give him an allowance. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm not sure how it's working, but it seems that he seems to have no trouble living.
Right.
I'm no expert on living with your assets frozen. I've never had my assets frozen, thankfully, knock on wood.
But if you could have them frozen, you'd have them frozen right away. We know.
Exactly. I want to get it over with.
Get them frozen right away. Throw them in the freezer.
Exactly. In fact, I will personally put them in the refrigerator so they are chilled and prepared to be frozen. That's the kind of guy I am. Well, this next story is kind of interesting. It comes from the United Kingdom, and it deals with MP Mike Weatherly. He is the intellectual property advisor for the UK government. They've been proposing some pretty radical, and a lot of them have been seen as you know, as pro-copyright reform angles, such as opening up fair use, making private copying and format shifting legal, things that we think of in the United States as, every day, but are not currently fact in the United Kingdom or are just coming online. But he did have a report in which he has said that Google and other search engines are not doing enough to tackle piracy. They are making inadequate steps to deal with this issue, and they are calling for the search engines to do more, saying that and furthermore, others in the industry are saying that search engines clearly can remove illegal searches. They do so with other types of content, but they currently do not do so with pirated content. So, yeah, big change going on there, big shift going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I like the kind of at least the description of the wording of the opinion being that Google can do more, but it's unfair. Yeah, it's unfair to place the burden solely on Google or believe that if Google does something that it will have some sort of complete siphoning impact on piracy as a whole. Google, as we talked about, has an ability to help out in a big way, but yeah, I mean, there's no single approach.
And I think that's pretty reasonable, honestly. Google can do more, but yes, even if Google does do everything it can do, it's not going to be the end of piracy. I agree with that completely.
I mean, I think it makes sense for them to prioritize. Far be it for me to tell Google what makes sense for them, right? It's not. I don't want them telling what makes sense for me. But generally speaking, I think it would make sense for their index to prioritize legitimate services. And I think this is the key for me: is the ability to be recognized as a legitimate service should be easy, should be relatively straightforward. Like, this shouldn't stifle smaller businesses from selling audio, books, selling all different kind of content online. It should be a straightforward process, and that's the trick. Because I think if you make it too difficult, then it ends up in the hands of big companies. It's Amazon, it's Apple, it's Google Play, selling digital audio. So yeah, I think it's good to have that process, and I think it needs to be straightforward. And maybe it's the entertainment industry needs to pay for it, to pay for that process where, okay, this is a legitimate service, we check them out, boom, it's on the list, go. And it's not some sort of months-long thing. It needs to be streamlined. So that's just my opinion there.
Agreed. And they do something similar with Google News. It's not too difficult.
Right.
So I'm saying there are precedents here for this. And, I mean, if nothing else, just getting rid of sites that are obviously pirates and have millions of DMCA notices against them might be at least a good first step, which they've not really done. They've said they were going to start downranking them, but never really did.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that could be an interesting data point to use as well.
Well, our final story this week centers around a bunch of triangles. And specifically, it centers around, I guess you would, they describe it as cubist, and yes, it's cubist even though it's triangles, because cubism deals with geometric shapes. I know art. I have an artist's soul.
I'll take your word for it, because I don't.
But apparently a designer named James Soares, I think is how you say that last name, Soares, S-O-A-R-E-S, I'm saying Soares.
Sure.
Noticed that a skirt being sold by Urban Outfitters being a pretty large retailer, was basically using his pattern with a 180-degree flip and selling it as a skirt. So it basically a piece of artwork he made. Where's the title of it? What's the title of the work? I know it's in this article.
Yeah, we'll find it in a second here.
It's in the article somewhere, and I just totally don't see it right now.
Okay, the name of it is it's Trapezoid. It's T-R-Y-Y-P-Y-Z-O-Y-D. So to me, it sounds like Trapezoid, but
Trapezoid. Yeah, and he makes apparently a decent living selling it on iPhone cases and in other places. And Urban Outfitters put it on a skirt entitled the Bam Bam Geo Bodycon Skirt. I have no idea what those words mean, for the record. There's 4 words there. I don't recognize 3 of them as English.
Yeah, you get skirt. But
skirt.
Well, I mean, I think what it has to do is the Bam Bam part is the brand, right?
Okay,
Urban Outfitters sells a skirt design from the designers at Bam Bam Cloth, right? So I think it's Bam Bam Cloth who designed it, and it's Urban Outfitters who's selling it. So yeah. And so that's where they got the design from this company, Bam Bam. It's mentioned in the article. And, it looks like a cool piece of art. It looks like a nice skirt, as much as I have an opinion, as much as I'm qualified to judge that sort of thing. But, yeah, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, right? Is that, what's your meaning? You put this at the end, and why'd you put it at the end?
I put it at the end because it's a resolved matter. It's not really litigation.
Okay, not for anything particularly goofy. But, for me, it's like, whoever did this is fired. Right? I mean, because on some level, whoever made the decision to... And I'm not saying it's the person at Urban Outfitters who approved the design. I'm not saying it's the company who did the design. I'm saying it's the person who decided to take this and flip it and say, this is a unique design. Whoever that person is who made that decision, it just demonstrates a character flaw. And it's... I don't know. I like to give people second chances, but it's hard to see where this is not just a fireable thing because of a serious lapse in ethical judgment. And an ethical judgment lapse that causes an outrage and costs people money. I mean, it puts strain on... It
could have been a lot worse. I mean, he's not suing actively.
Right. No, you're right. It could have been a lot worse. But as far as the minds of consumers, seeing this story, reading about it, I mean, it's a black mark for Urban Outfitters.
Absolutely, I agree.
And if it's a black mark for Urban Outfitters, it's a black mark for their relationship with Bam Bam. So you have to believe that this doesn't help this company's ability to sell designs to Urban Outfitters moving forward.
Absolutely not. This is a big catastrophe for them, I would say.
And it's an insane lack of creativity because it's like couldn't even change some of the colors of the triangles.
Nope, just flipped it upside down. Which, I mean, I gotta say, I understand the plight here. Crystal does abstract art.
Yeah.
And she has one painting that I absolutely love, and she absolutely loves. It's a red and brown painting.
Yeah.
But everyone always wonders, how do you know when it's upside down? And Crystal's like, because I designed it this way.
Right.
I painted it. I know which side goes up. Just leave it there.
I'm the artist.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this morning, actually, because it was about the... well, let's talk about this at the end. I'll just say one thing here. It's seriously lazy. I mean, I could have designed this skirt, right? I mean, I can flip things. I know how to flip things.
Photoshop, rotate, 180.
So you don't even. I mean, the Microsoft Windows Media Viewer allows you to flip now. It's like the default image viewer, like
MS Paint lets you rotate.
Right. I mean, so boy, but. Yeah, I was thinking about that because of the black and white video, and you had mentioned that. You said most people disregarded it because of some dance moves. I don't know most, but certainly some. And I went back
most people at the time it was debuted. That was the big topic everyone talked about.
Right.
Maybe it's less true today.
No, I think I don't want to get too sidetracked. I think it's a case where it was a very popular song, a very popular video. So I think, some people definitely did, and there was a controversy, and I was reading about that. And I was reading about, it was an article basically, they mentioned a couple of news stations, and they were complaining because they got calls. One said they got a dozen calls, one said they got a couple hundred about the video and how they didn't like it. And I think one comment quoted was that, I don't like everything, the first half of the video was positive, but then it goes into this other stuff. Why can't he just be this half? And I was thinking about that, if you look at art, you have to take the art as it is. You can't tell the artist, oh, I like this part, but chop this part off. You can't. The art shouldn't be beholden to this sort of I don't know, this sort of criticism. You can take the art for what it is. You can appreciate it in your own way, but to tell the artist that they need to chop off their art because you don't like the second half of it, I don't know. It's just so ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
And so. Gosh, there was relevant point in that to this story in some way, but it's just funny to me how people want artists to conform to whatever they want. If you just like the first half, just like the first half. You don't need to tell anybody to do anything else. Like, go make your own art.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But the point remains, this was a pretty egregious infringement. I mean, there's no way around that. They took this guy's art, flipped it 180, and stuck it on his skirt.
And if they had changed the colors, it would have muddied it.
Yeah.
Because I hate to say it's quote unquote just triangles, because I believe that if you didn't do it, then it doesn't matter if you could do it, because the person who does it is the artist and the person who made it happen. But if they had just changed colors of triangles, maybe it would be a lot different case. But they didn't. I mean, the colors, they match up perfectly, and it's even on a printed skirt worn by a model here. The colors match up almost perfectly. Like you can see, it even transferred properly. onto
Yeah,
the path.
and the artist, in proving his point, actually has a side-by-side image with little lines connecting the triangles. And it's kind of weird to see the lines connected to the model's butt.
Yeah.
But you know, point made.
Yeah, and he didn't connect all of it. Like it all matches. Like even if you go beyond the part where his lines are, like to the next line, it's like, oh look, teal, brown, light teal, darker teal. Here's a gray on the end. Yeah, I mean,
There's a brown.
it's perfect. It's perfect match. So just tremendous. I don't know, laziness and hopes no one would ever find out. I guess.
I think you said it best when whoever did this is fired, and the relationship between Bam Bam and Urban Outfitters is strained, and nobody wins except maybe the artist who gets a little publicity, and if he wants, can sue. You know, but it doesn't seem like that's the route he's taking.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it might not even be worth it for him to sue at this point.
At this point, yeah. I mean, it is I think it is the UK. I think this is all UK, so copyright registration doesn't factor into it. He could, but I don't think it's necessary. I think he's made his point and he's got what he wanted.
Just reading the article here. Source, it says it's based in Massachusetts.
Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. Okay, never mind. Probably not worth it. Good night, everybody. Sorry about that. My mistake.
No, I mean, it could be Massachusetts, England. I don't know, but
no.
But it is a UK article.
That's why I thought it was, because the Daily Mail had picked it up.
UK news, Dallas. You just stick to your UK news, okay?
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
need to
do nothing but UK news now.
Yeah, where's Urban Outfitters based? I've never even really. They're headquartered in Philadelphia. I don't know.
Okay, so it is a U.S. art. That may be part of your problem then.
Yeah, I guess they're. Yeah, it says Philadelphia, so I guess they're. Yeah, it's all U.S. Everyone, we can just fight it out here in the streets in the good old USA.
Yeah, damn right. Well, Patrick, I'm out of copyright news. You got anything else to add?
I don't.
Well, on that note, everyone, my name is Jonathan Bailey, once again from the site Plagiarism Today, which can be found at plagiarismtoday.com. I'm also username Plagiarism Today, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, Instagram, anywhere else you probably want to find me.
Is that the end?
That's the end.
Okay. I'm just kidding. And I'm Patrick O'Keefe. I blog at managingcommunities.com. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, as Patrick O'Keefe.
Once again, if you are curious, it is Biker Warrior Babe versus Zombie Babies from Hell. Interesting movie. I can't comment on whether it's good or bad. Haven't seen it yet, but looking forward to punching in. And, of course, we're talking about Reading Rainbow, Kickstarter, anything else we plugged briefly during the show. And the Stand Desk. Yes, yeah. That's it. So check out all those things. I'm sure they're quite excellent. On that note, everyone, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you guys next week.